and all of the wider BPS team, who you will have met, I think, at the various registration desks and elsewhere, and they've been tireless in trying to support you and us to make this come off well. Finally, I should thank our sponsors who made this financially possible for us and have given us great support. And the exhibition hall, I think, was a real success and a lot of fun. So I will close my part of the meeting here, and I'd like to move on to 3 other presentations. So the first one is from Professor Clive Page, President of BPS.
So thank you, David, and on behalf of the British Pharmacological Society, I'd like to thank you all for coming to Glasgow and participating in what I think has been an exceptional meeting. I've heard a number of you say it's the best one you've been to on a number of levels. And of course, as David has said, at the core of this has been the excellent science that we've had. And I wanted to thank you again, David and Amrita, for putting together such a magnificent and really great scientific program. I think that there are some things we can learn, as you say, about having too much, but I think you're going to get to see all of that online if you missed some of the plenaries. Now, none of this happens by accident, and again, I'd like to reinforce what David said and thank the whole BPS team, and particularly Rachel Lambert-Forsyth, our CEO, and the whole team, many of them who are still here, really for supporting this and working diligently behind the scenes to make sure that you've all had a good time and everything's worked. And I'd particularly like to thank our events manager, Isabel Brinsden, along with Nicola Williams, Kathy Barnum, and some of the others who've been here during the week, such as Donna, Chloe and Bonnie, who are still here. And I think if you're in the room, maybe you can stand up and we should give you a round of applause for all the work that you've done. And then I'd also like to extend thanks to Lynn Sampson, because she has also locally here in Glasgow has organised all of the wonderful social activities and just about everything else that's gone on locally. And Lynn, you've worked tirelessly all week, including having to tolerate watching me dance. And I'd like to sort of donate you to the Australians to help them, but I know that I can't do that. But thank you again, Lynn, if you can stand up as well, because I think not everyone will have seen you. And then I think as we built up to this conference, as David said, he's been working on this since around 2014, but the last 18 months have been particularly intense. And there's a lot of other stuff went on behind the scenes, like selecting orals, posters, actually who's going to referee and chair various events. And I'd like to acknowledge the hard work of our meetings, Vice President Professor Cherry Wainwright and her wider team. And if you're not too embarrassed, Cherry, stand up, because not everybody will know you. But again, thank you for all the work that you have done. And then I don't think they're here this afternoon, but I'd also like to thank Professor Mandy McLean from Strathclyde University here in Scotland, and also Dr. Sarah Bailey, because you may or may not be aware that we've had several public engagement events across Glasgow during this week to try and help raise the profile of pharmacology more broadly, which have been a huge success and sold out. So in their absence, I think we should also acknowledge them. And whilst I'm currently the president of the BPS, I'd also like to acknowledge the support of the president-elect, Sir Mark Caulfield, because Mark has been a real tower of strength in supporting everything that the team has done and the wider team with David and Amrita. And I'd like to personally acknowledge your support, Mark, for everything you've done. Thank you. And then I'd also just like to end by saying that none of this happened without all sorts of other activities behind the scenes that you just take for granted. And that includes all the volunteers. You've walked around with the sashes, you've supported every single room during the meeting to make sure it works well. And I don't know how many of you are here, but you really have done a sterling job. And again, I'd like to thank all the volunteers for their time and effort in supporting the meeting. And then I think you will not have failed to have noticed that the staff here at the SEC have just been exceptional. They have been friendly, they've been helpful, they just quietly got on with showing people around. And again, most of them, I'd say all of them, have done this with a really good smile and looking happy. So I'd like a round of applause, please, for all the SEC staff. And I'd also like to extend that to the people that we haven't seen, which are all the catering staff, because I think I've heard lots of good feedback that the food at conferences is often not very good. We made sure that we were going to feed and water you properly, but that didn't happen by accident, and I think you've been well fed and watered, I hope, all week. And certainly, if you know anything about the marshmallows and the tunnock bars that you've had very often with the coffee break, they're made locally. They sell apparently 7 million a week. I think we've consumed probably 6 million this week across the conference. So well done. So it just leaves me really to thank you again all for coming, to David and Rita, the whole team, and also to thank IUFAR for having the confidence in the BPS for actually hosting this meeting. I hope you all have a safe trip back to wherever you've come from. And I'm very much looking forward to catching up with as many of you as possible in Melbourne in a few years. So thank you, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Can I ask Mike Spedding if you'd like to come up to the podium to speak on behalf of IUFAR?
Thanks very much. On behalf of Ingolf Kshorby, the President, Francesca Lever-Schaefer, President-elect, and all the UFAR team, we would like to congratulate the BPS and congratulate the staff for what's been a really wonderful Congress. It's been scientifically, socially, on the happiness index, and particularly the opening ceremony, which is the best opening ceremony I've ever had, I think, and it's been quite remarkable. With diversity, which has been immensely important, because we've been locked away thanks to COVID, and we haven't been able to meet. And I'll give you just one little example of that. So I met Sharidindu Sinha, who was representing the Bangladesh Pharmacological Society, which we had no opportunity to interact with previously. They're not a member, and they now are immediately. And that's the sort of thing which is necessary to have a real meeting online. So it's a fantastic Congress, which from 2014, when I became Secretary General, and you started your trek onwards together with us, that it's been a major long trek with a certain difficulty on the way, which pushed us back from 2022 to 2023. And we've seen the response throughout this Congress to how pharmacology can then interact rapidly in order to be able to help world health. And that's a crucial aspect. And so this means that this meeting has been particularly important, and it's also brought together Africa, India, China, Bangladesh, the US, Australia, Canada, and these are all pharmacological societies which are our main client and which we support, and that's a crucial aspect for the future. I'd like to thank also now David, Amrita particularly, Samunia Piramad, who was right at the very start, was president, is now past president, Clive Page, Mark Caulfield, obviously remarkable efforts, and Cherry Wainwright, and also particularly, and the Scientific Advisory Board, which has also put together this marvelous Congress. Rachel and her team, I'll just mention quickly Nicola, Isabel, Becky, Bonnie, Catherine, Lynn, who I've had particular interactions with, but they've all been really remarkable. I'd also like to thank the global network of pharmacology societies who've contributed throughout. And I've got a couple of words just to say in a minute about how we can go and help that more. but particularly also for the early career researchers who've been totally dynamic population. It's been an enormous pleasure from an old pharmacologist to interact with them and try and enthuse both ways. And for the ECRs that are present, I'd like to give you a personal recommendation. Keep up with the friends you've made. Many of the old people in this Congress are friends that I met a long time ago and are still great friends. So this is you're a vivarium of future pharmacology and great scientists, and you'll see as you progress that keeping together that network, which is now much easier with internet, is actually one of the crucial ways forward. And so that's something which is really, really important. Before we go on to the World Congress in Melbourne, I'd just like to say that we've got 3 years to traverse. Those 3 years we can do an awful lot to get ready for Melbourne, because there are some things there which are crucial to achieve. IUFAR is going to have a General Assembly virtually every year, in which the societies can interact and can also help to prepare Melbourne. There are major issues which have come out from this meeting, which I'd like to have as action points prior to Melbourne. Some of them are too difficult, perhaps, but we can try. I put up a slide at the General Assembly of how there's 2 worlds for healthcare, rich and poor, but also 2 worlds for healthcare in terms of who can do clinical trials effectively and not. I think that's an issue for world science, which we ought to push in the 3 years prior to Melbourne, in order to be able to have a more equitable world, and a world in which the clinical difficulties in resource-limited countries can be reinforced, because we have good pharmacologists there, but clinical trials, if you follow the European level, not just the British level, the European level can therefore be too complicated to do the clinical trials properly. And today we saw a way in which we can address that, and I think that's something we should do. I'm interested in having an environmental pharmacology issue, because the 400 million tons of pesticides which are put on the planet are actually not tested in terms of their KIs, but usually on their LD50s. And would you take a drug based on its LD50? No. And so this sort of area is something which we intend to work on in IUFAR, and also link up the other societies. Education, databases, as Steve Alexander has shown throughout this meeting, and virtual meetings. Because what we want to do is to prepare Melbourne by having IUFAR throughout your society meetings with experts that can be brought in. And so that's something which I think is going to be really important. And also continue our thrust for evidence-based medicine for natural products. Those are all things which we hope to get further along the line in the 3 years to come. But the real thing today is that we've had a fantastic meeting. We've had some really remarkable people driving it, and that we now need to get ready for the next one. And Carl Petrosky is going to be able to talk about Melbourne, and it's a way forward, which I'm already looking forward to, and looking to get a cheap flight booked tomorrow. So I think, therefore, Carl, would you like to come up and, oh, sorry, the Master of Ceremonies can come up and present the next issue of the World Congress.
Kia ora, g'day, or as the traditional owners of the Kulin Nation say, Wominjeka. Wominjeka translates to welcome or come with purpose. My name is Carl Kirkpatrick, and indeed I'll be the chairperson for the World Congress of Pharmacology in 2023. On behalf of ASCEPT, we're very grateful to be awarded this event, and really look forward to hosting you in Melbourne in 2026. I want to stop here just briefly, just to echo some of the comments, and I wish to thank David and Rita, Clive, Rachel and the BPS crew for what has been an amazing 6 days. So thank you. So welcome to Australia. We look forward to seeing you in Australia, and we want to see as many members from our OFAR organisations that we possibly can. Melbourne's an amazing place, and it's a city that I call home. Why was Melbourne chosen? Well, it's affordable. It's a safe, World Health Organisation safe city. It's friendly and incredibly multicultural. And without doubt, it is Australia's medtech and pharma hub. This year in 2023, it's been ranked as the third world's most livable city. Prior to that COVID pandemic, we were 7 years in a row the world's most livable city. We are a major flight hub, and destinations with direct access are constantly increasing fortnight by fortnight, and hopefully by 2026 we will be above and beyond where we were pre-COVID. The visa requirements are very simple. It's a tourist visa only, and we will support people to get those visas as required. We'll be holding the event in the Melbourne Convention and Exhibition Centre. It is on the South Wharf Precinct, which is on Wurundjeri land, on the Yarra River. Along the Yarra River and alongside the Melbourne Convention Centre are restaurants, a shopping centre, and within the Melbourne Convention Centre, 2 5-star hotels with approximately 750 beds, so you can stay dry and warm in between the sessions. It's located in the heart of the Melbourne city, only 20 minutes from Melbourne Airport, and close to trains, trams and buses. It's a unique space, it's an innovative space, and reflects the culture and heritage of Melbourne. This is an outside view of the Yarra River on the left-hand side. The Congress Leadership Group exists as myself, Daniela Niddick, Dominic Geraghty, Karen Gregory and Lydia Dalton, who is our ever-present professional conference organiser and will keep us under control and make sure we deliver a very good conference. We have a local organising committee. These lovely faces here, these lovely people. They come from different states and have different content expertise, so they will be part of guiding us across the next 3 years to make sure we deliver a program that is full of science, is balanced, and is relevant to the whole of Australia and the wider global community. The scientific program will be delivered by these two fantastic individuals, Professor Rebecca Ritchie and Professor Ross McKinnon, and they'll be working with another layer of program coordinators, which will have early career, mid-career, senior career, and link to our International Scientific Committee to help build and identify lecturers, symposia, and other events that we want to hold across the Congress. Briefly on the program, one of the first things the organising group, the leadership group, did was to write an equity, diversity, inclusion policy, and that indeed was the first documentation that went up on the WCP website, and we'll be using that policy to design the program. There will be themes and concepts across basic and clinical pharmacology, many of which we've seen across the last 5 to 6 days. We'll be looking at some new themes that reflect the expertise and or challenges in Australasia and our near neighbours. Some of those may be global health, sustainability, which is very important. And we're looking at how we can get enhanced speaking opportunities and getting that critical balance of student, ECR and MCR under control. As Michael said, they are the future of pharmacology. It doesn't need to be old people like me speaking all the time. And of course, getting that critical balance between symposium and oral presentations and getting a mix of speakers in all those sessions, which is critically important. Lots to work on in the coming 3 years. We will be providing an advancement and support for students and early career researchers, support for students coming from resource-poor countries, research students, and early career researchers. As has happened here, we'll be providing function, prizes, events, new investigator symposia, and our own ASCEPT Students Forum will run Melbourne experiences for those people while in Melbourne before, during, and after. A little bit more information about Melbourne. Airport transport is convenient, affordable, and takes about 20 minutes and 2 sets of traffic lights to go from the airport to the convention centre. We have free tram travel within the city, but the city itself is actually compact, it's relatively flat, and easy and safe to navigate on foot. We have the usual taxi and rideshare services available, and for those who are a little bit more adventurous, we also have electric bike and scooter hire across the city. You need to wear a helmet. We have roughly 35,000 hotel rooms across Melbourne. Importantly, there is 4,500 rooms within a 5-minute walk of the convention centre. So you should be able to find accommodation close to where you are. And they range in that 5 minutes from budget, around $60 Australian, to obviously the 5-star accommodation that I mentioned previously that is embedded within the convention centre. While you're here, we'd like you to discover Melbourne. Whether it is the Victoria Market, which has serviced Melbourne for over 140 years, 600 stalls providing all kinds of different foods, equipment, clothes, all kinds of things. Whether it's the cauldron of the MCG, that famous ground that supports both our AFL community and our cricket community. The Botanic Gardens, where you can do a heritage Aboriginal walk and learn about our First Nations people. And of course, our laneways. They are famous. Take some time, walk them, look at the graffiti, look at the colour, enjoy some of the food and other activities that exist. And of course, our coffee culture, which we shared with you for 3 days this week. Don't believe what Daniela says, Melbourne has the best coffee. We expect you to spend some time discovering Victoria, whether it's a short tram ride down to St Kilda, a beautiful drive down the Great Ocean Road, the eucalypt rainforest type in the Dandenongs, or taking a balloon ride through the Yarra wine area and enjoying the fantastic white and red wines of the area. A little further afield down at Phillip Island, you can do the penguin parade each night. The penguins come in as the sun goes down. They come out of the Southern Ocean, they jump across the rocks, and you can sit and watch thousands of penguins coming in each day. And also there's a koala sanctuary down there, so you can get from me to the microphone away from these beautiful koalas. We also expect that you might want to take some time before or after and discover Australia and also New Zealand. Obviously, there's Sydney with the Opera House, Alice Springs with the amazing lights, the Great Barrier Reef in Cairns and far north Queensland, the Noosa, Sunshine Coast, Gold Coast area. There's many things to do. Australia is an old country. The First Nations people of Australia are the longest existing civilization on Earth. They have been living on country for more than 65,000 years. I'll say that again, living on country, with country, evolving with country for 65,000 years. So, to introduce you to country and a welcome to country, I'm going to hand over to Auntie Zita, who is a Wurundjeri Yorta Yorta elder, and she will give you some insights into Aboriginal culture, its history, and importantly, the welcome to country.
Waminjika Lairek Wanda, Billado Nanwa, Naranik, Auntie Zita. Welcome. I pay respects to our ancestors. How are you all? And I'm known as Auntie Zita. We acknowledge our ancestors who walked this land from the beginning of time. They were the knowledge keepers of the oldest living culture on earth. I acknowledge the elders of today and all Aboriginal people on their traditional lands across the country and our Torres Strait Island brothers and sisters. I also pay my respects to all visitors on our country today. The Welcome to Country protocol is based on the old, ancient, traditional Aboriginal law and practice that has been handed down over many thousands of years. It means you can come onto country for a ceremony, to settle disputes and to share food source. All clans were protective of their tribal lands, and they would hold a smoking ceremony to cleanse the area and visitors of bad energy and spirits. The fire is carefully prepared using certain leaves and strong elements from our country. We acknowledge the creative spirit, Bunjil, who comes in the form of a wedge-tailed eagle, the maker of all things, and Wa, the black crow, the keeper of the wind and waterways. They are the lawmakers for the Kulin tribes. The Kulin tribes are made up of 5 tribes: Bunwurrung, who we share parts of country with, Jaja Wurrung, Tana Wurrung, Wata Wurrung, and Woi Wurrung. We are all speakers of the same language and various dialects. I pay my respects to my grandfather and his 11 children, my father being one of them. They are of the Yarra Yarra clan of the Wurundjeri tribe. My grandfather, who was born on the Corranderk Aboriginal Reserve in the 1800s, when things were miserable for all Aboriginal people across the country since first contact or invasion. I also acknowledge my mother, a strong warrior woman of the Yalupna clan of the Yorta Yorta tribe. Our people were the first environmentalists, looking after and caring for country. We were taught to care for country as country would look after us, providing us with food, shelter, water and everything that we need. We had Bora circles that were used for ceremony, trading and exchanging of goods with other tribes over thousands of years. We have a football game called Manguk that was played on the Bora circle and still played today by our people. We acknowledge our past medicine men and women. They were able to heal our people over the centuries with old healing remedies, using various plants, leeches, hot stones. Many of these remedies were used by my family in my growing up years. To the Wurundjeri people, the Birrarung, also known as the Yarra River, is a river of mist and shadows, a spiritual and healing river. Everyone can see that river, but not many know the history and significance to our people. A great food source with plenty of bird life, where people would fish from their bark canoes, and then all would gather to settle disputes and have ceremony with neighbouring clans. We are the children of the Dreamtime people, and we have a spiritual connection to the earth and heavens. We have no ancient buildings like many other cultures. Our connection is in the earth, our mother. In closing, Wuminjaka, Wurundjeri Balik, Yemen Kondibik. Welcome to all visitors from here and overseas to the beautiful lands and waters of the Wurundjeri people, and may the spirit of the land keep you safe.
Thank you, Auntie Zita. What's left now is for my colleagues, my pharmacology colleagues from ASCEPT, to introduce Australia a little further and hear about some of the amazing work that they undertake in the research and give you an idea of things that you can do around Australia.
Kia ora, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. That's a Maori welcome, and it means welcome to all, to your ancestors and to your descendants. I'm Nuala Helsby, and I live and work in Auckland, New Zealand. And Auckland is a city with more than 50 volcanoes, but don't worry, they're all extinct. My research is on the inter-individual differences in drug metabolism, and I can't wait to meet you all and have a chat about it in Melbourne in 2026.
Yeah, Palingada. Hello, welcome to Lutruwita, Tasmania. I'm Dom Geraghty and I'm the Pro-Vice-Chancellor at the University of Tasmania, Launceston, where I've been a teacher and a researcher for over 30 years, predominantly in the area of vanilloid pharmacology. I've also become a major advocate for educational attainment in rural and regional Australia. I look forward to welcoming you to WCP 2026 in Melbourne, and I look forward to also welcoming you to Tasmania, where you might like to come down for a little bit of R&R. Cheers.
Hello from Sydney, Australia. My name is Daniela Nitting, and I'm joining you today from the University of Sydney campus, the oldest university in Australia. As a member of World Congress of Pharmacology 2026 Leadership Group, I look forward to welcoming you all to Melbourne in 2026. I know you must be all excited to visit Melbourne, but I really hope you get to visit Sydney as well. We do have better coffee than Melbourne after all. I cannot wait to welcome you all down under to discuss and share research ideas with our global pharmacology community. See you all in Melbourne in 2026.
Yuma, hello. Welcome to Australia. Darawananga, Darawanangawal. This is Ngunnawal country. I'm Dr. Alison Shield and I'm coming to you from Canberra, which is also known as the Bush capital, and it's the heart of Australian democracy. I am a passionate pharmacology educator and I'm really looking forward to meeting you at World Congress of Pharmacology in Melbourne in 2026. I hope we can figure out the best way to educate future pharmacologists.
Good day, I'm joining you from the Gold Coast in sunny Queensland here in Australia. My name's Donna Sellers and I'm at Bond University in the Centre for Urology Research, where I'm particularly focused on the bladder and the lower urinary tract. We're interested in urinary incontinence, bladder pain, and trying to understand these disorders so that we can come up with more effective treatments. Queensland here is definitely the Sunshine State. We're famous for surf, beaches, and the hinterland rainforests. I'm really looking forward to the World Congress 2026. Hope to see you in Melbourne. Maybe you'll dip your toes in the ocean.
My name is Liz Johnston, and I live and work in Perth, Western Australia. Perth is the home to many glorious beaches, as well as the world's cutest animal, the quokka. For my research, I study the pharmacology of G-protein coupled receptors, trying to discover new ways to more effectively target them. As a member of the ASCEPT board, I'm really excited to welcome the global pharmacology community to Melbourne in 2026, so I hope to see you there.
G'day, Naamani, are you all good? I'm Dr. Dan Barrett and I live and work here on the traditional lands of the Kaurna people here in Adelaide, South Australia. I'm about to head in here to our National Wine Centre to enjoy some of our world-class local reds, but I'm usually the other side of the gardens here at the University of Adelaide conducting clinical pharmacogenomics and drug disposition research. As part of the local organising committee, I look forward to welcoming you to Melbourne in 2026 for the World Congress of Pharmacology and discussing some of your research over a few glasses of Australia's finest. Cheers.
Hello to the global pharmacology community. I'm Karen Gregory and I'm calling in from the banks of the Yarra River, which runs straight through the centre of Melbourne City. It's a beautiful spot and I can't wait to share my hometown with you all in 2026 for the next World Congress of Pharmacology. My research, I'm a molecular neuropharmacologist and we're trying to find new medicines to improve cognition, and I can't wait to tell you more when you come to Melbourne. See you there.
So all I've got to say is, Wominjeka, see you in Melbourne in 2026. Thank you.
So, Carl, thank you very much. Congratulations to you, your team, and everyone at ASCEPT. I have to say, Melbourne is one of my favourite cities, so I hope I'll get a chance to join you in 3 years' time. Thank you to everyone for coming, for staying on, for hearing about the next meeting. It's only 3 years away because we delayed, so it's not so long to wait. Thank you all for coming, and all have a safe journey home. Thank you.